All right, everybody. So, it's been a hot minute since I've talked about Matt Walsh, and I genuinely didn't expect I'd be talking about him again anytime soon, since he hasn't really done anything that's put him on my radar as of late, at least in the realm of politics. That is until this morning. Until when I saw that Matt Walsh put out a new video on quite the shocking topic. You see, a lot of my fans happen to be Sonic fans. So much so to the point that the idea of me playing a Sonic game for the first time in my life, the day after tomorrow, on stream, blind, is one of the most hyped up events that has happened in my channel's history. People are very excited for it. I've got a lot of Sonic fans in my community, and because of that, I've got a lot of people that are and were hyper excited for the new Sonic movie, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, starring Keanu Reeves and Idris Elba, and I forget who voices Sonic, funnily enough. But some pretty damn big stars, and also adapting a very beloved franchise and a sequel to two pretty damn good video game movies. The first Sonic movie and the second, despite the lead up and the drama for the first Sonic movie with the whole, like, original design for Sonic and all that. Despite all that drama, the movie came out and ended up being touted as one of the best video game to movie adaptations ever made. And so with the third Sonic movie coming out, a lot of people are hyped. Everyone's hyped. Everyone's talking about it, and it's apparently been very, very well received. So much so that rather than attacking it for being woke, most of your right-wing, anti-woke, anti-DEI grifters are trying to claim the movie as they attempt to do anything that's successful. If something is expected to or is failing financially, they use the hate for that thing or the failure of that thing as something that they can claim, see, go woke, go broke. But if it succeeds, they might even 180 from saying the opposite to, this thing is anti-woke and thus it succeeded. Hollywood audiences are tired of wokeness, and so they flooded and bought out this movie, and they'll find another movie that they can frame as woke because it has like a black person in it or something that didn't do well in the box office around the same time, and they'll make it like a contest between the two, and they'll say, see, the woke movie failed, and the anti-woke movie, it succeeded. And as you can imagine, the right are, of course, doing that with the new Sonic movie. It succeeded, and so they're trying to claim it. They're trying to say it's anti-woke. Matt Walsh, on the other hand, did not get the memo. He came out with a video called Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie that broke me as a father. Just by reading the comments, you can kind of tell the Sonic fan base has found it, and they're not happy. Here's some of the comments. Going from the top. Quote, I wasn't paying attention to the movie, so why are you complaining about it? Quote, I wasn't paying attention to the movie, so you made a video for nothing? Skull emoji. Now I understand why Gerald called humanity a failed experiment. He was on about you. I reported this video for misinformation. Lost me at Eggman's dancing makes no narrative sense. Eggman is in any media has always been goofy. This was more of complaining out of disinterest rather than a review. Sorry. So the deep theme of don't let your trauma define you and you're still responsible for your own actions went over your head. Anyone calling the Sonic movies children's movies is silly. They're family movies that anyone can enjoy. Matt Walsh walked out of Sonic 3 and punched a hole in the wall because Sonic 3 was, quote, too gay. I'm 44 and can't wait for Sonic 4. Oh, Matt Walsh, you're no Maria. Okay. Well, it seems like the Sonic fans have found Matt Walsh, and for the second time in like a month and a half now, the Daily Wire goons are getting dunked on in their comment section and ratioed. We are in a state of conservative domination of the internet culture and the culture at large right now, don't get me wrong, but it really feels like we're seeing the bubbling start to a countercultural push against it. Particularly with these Daily Wire goons consistently exposing themselves for being actually out of touch and kind of, unaligned with their audiences and their best interests. The whole Luigi Mangione thing, I think, really showed that. with how he attacked Luigi Mangione and their fans did not like it, followed by this, I think it really is getting across to people that these guys are just shit-talking, trend-chasing grifters that are just, they have to talk about whatever is relevant right now, but they have to talk about it negatively. Matt Walsh in particular has this like very unpleasant air of negativity to everything about his brand. Like, I don't think I've ever seen Matt Walsh make a video that is about him complimenting something, where it's just him talking about how great something is. You know, like I've never, or even seen a clip where it's just him talking about how great something is, and he just sounds positive and happy. Like, I want you to pay attention to his tone here. He's so negative and bitchy and complainy about everything, you know? It's like, there's no, he doesn't seem like he's happy with life. He's just kind of bitchy. That's the best way to describe it. He's like a happiness sponge or black hole. He sucks it away from you just by watching his content. He can't talk positively about things. It has to be negative about something. And so in this case, he has to talk about the Sonic movie. Everyone's talking about it. It's big news. But can he talk about it positively? No. He has to do his brand, which is to bitch about something sarcastically and smugly while he sits with a mug that has his face on it.
When a man becomes a father, he's called upon to make sacrifices for his family. And often these will be small sacrifices. Sometimes they'll be larger, though, more significant. And on even rarer occasions.
Throwback to when Matt Walsh said, and I quote, that he violates his children's consent all the time. Throwback to that little number.
And the duties of fatherhood will require him to make the kind of sacrifice that, up to that moment, he would have thought himself incapable of making. These are the moments when a man must become a hero, and when he must lay his very life on the line. And this...
I won't lie, as cringe as this might be the most, like, rhetorically interesting commentary I've seen from Matt Walsh in a while, because he's generally really boring. Matt Walsh has, like, no skill in regards to, like, I don't know why he's so successful. I guess it's just because he has a very standard Midwest accent. He's not a terrible looking guy, and his decent camera presence is probably why, and he's willing to tout all of the talking points for a paycheck. But besides that, there's no, like, talent there. Like, he doesn't really have the kind of personality that's, like, concordant with being a public figure that talks about things, because you can't just be a guy talking about stuff. You also have to bring some extra spice to it. But Matt Walsh has been astroturfed into success. Like, Daily Wire hired him, and just like they did for Brett Cooper, they paid to run ads for his content until he was someone that was recognizable and could start growing organically by finding the audience that wants to hear what he's peddling, right? But Matt Walsh, just as a content creator, in regards to just general entertainment value, is really boring. Look at that in contrast to someone like Tucker Carlson or Alex Jones, who, for all of their immense, numerous faults, are actually charismatic content creators. Like, Tucker Carlson is interesting to listen to. The way he talks is somewhat interesting. Like, the way he changes the tone of his voice and the weird faces he makes keeps people watching. The reason why he's so memeable is part of why he is so unique and entertaining to his fans, right? He's got a very particular brand. People can hear a clip or a quote from him and know he said it, right? Matt Walsh doesn't have that. He doesn't have what Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson bring to the table. He's just flatly talking about shit, and I feel like that's gotta catch up to him, and I feel like it's gotta be soon. Because now that his fans are starting to notice that he's just kind of a bitter asshole, and he's also not even aligned with their best interests with his whole attacking Luigi Mangione thing, I feel like even his own audience is going to have to start realizing more sooner rather than later that he's just not really worth putting the effort of watching into, and that there's even other conservative grifters out there that are more worth watching and getting their quote-unquote news from than Matt Walsh. Like, Ben Shapiro, I think, is more entertaining than Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh is just, like, I think Matt Walsh's biggest crime is that he's fucking boring, and that his success, I feel, massively, like way too much for how boring he is. He's just ridiculously flat.
May take many forms. Perhaps he's rushing into a burning building to rescue his child from the fire. Perhaps he has to pull his loved one away from the path of a speeding train because they've been tied to the tracks by band.
See, this is a rare case where he's actually somewhat, like, engaging, I guess. Like, he's doing a bit, and that's different.
Or whatever. Or most harrowing of all, he may be compelled by his paternal obligations to go to a movie theater and watch Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Oh,
now,
no.
A man in that situation would, of course, much prefer to be engulfed in flames or hit by a speeding train, but that would be the coward's way out. He endures Sonic the Hedgehog 3 for the sake of his children, whom he loves. And over Christmas break, that is precisely the situation that I found myself in. Now, for the record, I'll say I greatly enjoyed most of the time that I spent with my wife and kids these past 2 weeks. We had a lot of fun together. We played football, we played outside, we shot BB guns, we played card games and board games. I completely wrecked my whole family in Monopoly. And 5-year-old daughter asked me to take them to go see Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And I did. God help me. God help me. I did. Now, before I offer my brief review of this thing that I hesitate to call a film, I must first acknowledge, in all fairness, I never saw Sonic the Hedgehog 1 or Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It's possible that one cannot fully appreciate the narrative complexities of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 without having seen the first 2 chapters in this epic Hedgehog saga. Maybe the other 2 movies are works of staggering artistic genius that would elevate the third and...
Well, I guess we're kind of like, I guess this is a great example of what I talk about when I say that Matt Walsh and his whole brand is just like smug, sarcastic negativity about everything. This is a very good like example of what I'm talking about. And when he's like, I feel like his own audience, because a lot of them are Sonic fans. Sonic is a very large and beloved franchise. When something they like is getting the Matt Walsh treatment of some like ignorant, uninformed, doesn't even care, and is only talking about the topic for a paycheck, comes in with his brand of ignorant, smug, negative sarcasm, just like generic, I guess generic mean dad, I guess would be his vibe, like the kind of like TV conservative dad that disregards anything their ridiculous liberal children say, I guess, like almost like a Stan Smith kind of character, from American Dad. Like, people are starting to realize that when he's being himself to a group or a thing that you like, it's actually the most unpleasant and unlikable thing ever. Like, when this guy was giving the TikTok feminists this treatment, they loved it. Now that it's Sonic, and it's something they like, they're getting a taste of that medicine, and they're starting to realize, this guy is just a fucking cunt. He comes in, a wealthy, like, guy with more money than you could ever imagine, comes in to a topic or an interest he has no connection to. He makes a drawn-out, exactly 10-minute video where he rambles constantly in order to get to that mark where he can insert the most mid-roll ads. He gives zero respect to something that is a well-liked and clearly there's a lot of love put into the Sonic franchise. There's a reason why it's successful and popular. It's because real love is put into that franchise, and there's actual care and compassion that went into creating it. Matt Walsh doesn't care about that. And as a Sonic fan, you know that compassion, that care, there's deepness. Like, when you're into a franchise for a game or something, you might have spent hours and hours and hours listening to lore videos, like playing the games. You're invested in the characters. And to have Matt Walsh, this outsider, this guy, come in with his mug that has his face on it and his corporate studio to come in and make a clearly money-grubbing, negative, scumbag, sarcastic, negative video about something you care about. Now his fans are getting the same feeling that we've gotten, you know? They're seeing exactly what we've always seen in him, which is, man, this guy is really unlikable.
Installment and lend it the sort of context necessary for me to have appreciated it and enjoyed it instead of feeling like I was being waterboarded with high fructose corn syrup the whole time. But I doubt it. I mean, this is the kind of movie where Jim Carrey plays 2 characters. One is the evil villain.
Yeah, actually, it was really funny, Heavy Griddle. was Ben Shapiro reviewing the Rings of Power. Ben Shapiro, because he's like one of the largest, if not the largest conservative pundit online, was the only right-wing YouTuber who covered the Rings of Power and didn't grift it. Like, he said, you know, it was good. Wasn't amazing, wasn't bad. It was good. He didn't complain about, like, the casting of, like, women or brown people or anything. Like, he didn't even, as far as I remember in his review, he didn't bring up the race of any characters of the casting. Like, he didn't need to fit a quota for what topics he had to cover in order to appease an audience, because he's fucking Ben Shapiro. He can say what he wants. And then what surprised me was Ben Shapiro proceeds to do like an hour of hyper-analyzing Rings of Power, not as a critique, but for the deep-cut Tolkien references, and goes, okay, so this line right here is a reference to the Silmarillion, and he starts like very clearly, like he knows his Tolkien shit. Ben Shapiro was actually quite likable in that video, and it was like, I was just blown away that I watched a Ben Shapiro video where he was just likable and chill. He was just talking about Lord of the Rings and giving a pretty fair, he didn't even give a negative review to it, but it was just a fair review to Rings of Power. And a lot of, like, breakdowns of Lord of the Rings references. And on top of that, he correctly predicts who Sauron is in the show. Before it was revealed, he uses his book knowledge to deduce who Sauron is in disguise based off of one line, which, if you know the books, that line is the giveaway. That character is Sauron in disguise. Ben caught the line and predicted it, and even references exactly where in the Silmarillion this exact characteristic of Sauron and how he operates is, like, worded in the same way, and how when that character says what he does, it's like, oh, okay, you just admitted you're Sauron to any book reader. So Ben knew. Ben caught that. And he's like, I think Ben, honestly, I would take Ben as like someone who exists on this platform 1,000,000 times over Matt Walsh. Like, Matt Walsh is a talentless hack. Ben Shapiro is like an actual person, and he's like Ben Shapiro is an actual, like, demonic piece of shit who seems to believe the things that he says, but also be a real person, even if he's an awful one. Well, Matt Walsh is a character. Brett Cooper is a character. Michael Knowles is a character. These are actors, failed out, like, you know, they crashed out of Hollywood, they failed out, and then they got hired as actors to play conservative political pundits online. That is what the Daily Wire is. Ben Shapiro is the only real one among them. I guess Candace Owens was too, but she left. So Ben Shapiro is the only real one among them. The rest of them are all ex-actors who failed out of Hollywood, and now their role they play is conservative pundit on the internet. There's a reason why, and if they turn their heads, you'll see it. All these people, besides Ben Shapiro, have earpieces in. Do you want to know why they have to have an earpiece in? It's because they don't actually believe any of the things they're saying, and they have to have their talking points fed to them through an earpiece. Live, as they're recording the videos. They can't even remember a script of talking points.
And the other is the evil villain's evil grandfather in old age makeup. And the two break into an impromptu dance routine that makes no narrative sense, but lasts approximately 87 minutes. It's the kind of movie where those same characters...
Dude, you want to know what this video reminds me of? I feel like this is a 10-minute version of this video clip. Who remembers that one guy who played Devil May Cry 5 and he just didn't get it and kept insulting the game? And the whole internet dunks in this guy now because, like, he doesn't get the joke so consistently that he takes his ignorance of not getting the joke and the fact that it's meant to be funny, he turns it into a criticism of the game, and everyone dunks in this guy for it. This is one of my favorite clips on the internet, though.
I don't understand a thing in this game, bro. This game has done nothing but just confuse me, bro. You know what I'm saying? I just don't understand what's going on.
He just takes his headset, slams it down, and walks away. He doesn't get it. It reminds me so much of that. This is the Matt Walsh version of that clip.
for the dance routine actually look directly into the camera and explain that they're being played by the same actor. I must assume, and I think
That is called a fourth wall breaking joke.
assume safely, that there is nothing in the other two films that would make this one any less obnoxious or horrifically stupid. I'm not going to bother explaining the plot of this film in any detail.
Good, don't spoil
I wasn't
it.
tracking it that closely, to be honest. I was mostly fighting to stay awake. This is the kind of movie that bores you to the point of putting you to...
Have you guys ever noticed that, like, 100% of the time, someone who, like, says they didn't like a movie and at any point says they, like, struggled to pay attention or struggled to stay awake, like, they're completely bullshitting? Like, usually when someone says that, it's like a very clear sign to me, at least the way I interpret it as, is they didn't give it a chance. You know what I mean? Like, just broadly, when I hear someone say, oh, I didn't enjoy that movie or show, I could barely stay awake, I could barely hold my attention, that tells me they, like, went into it with it, like, on in the background and didn't really pay attention or even intend to do so, and that, like, they didn't even try to get invested. Like, you know, like just put on a movie and be like, all right, let's see the opening scene of this movie and what the inciting events are, right? Like, maybe they put it on, they got up to use the bathroom, came back, and, like, half the introduction is through, and they're like, why don't I understand what's happening? This movie's shit. And they start looking at their phone, right? Like, you ever encounter someone who's like that, and they have that experience with a piece of media and think they have grounds to review it negatively? It's genuinely one of the most, like, frustrating things, and I'm glad the comments section calls it out, because I feel like that is a report or a self-report by people just admitting that they didn't actually watch the thing that they're shit-talking. And mind you, people do that. Do you guys realize that there are hundreds of comments below every CinemaSins video saying this is the closest I'll ever come to watching this movie? Proudly admitting that their way of watching movies is through CinemaSins videos. The fact that CinemaSins is considered a reputable media reviewer online, I think is actually a really good example of, like, the level of low, like, how low the bar is. And how if you try to raise the bar, mind you, like, there's a YouTuber named The Birdman who does, like, CinemaSins Sins videos. They're very good. And he is constantly inundated with, like, attacks and harassment from the fan base of CinemaSins. Because they want to defend the idea that some dipshit's, like, nonsense attempt to grift off of a popular movie by making up nonsense. Like, half the time this guy will say, my sin of this movie is that I noticed a thing on screen. Like, I watched one of the Birdman's videos today, and one of the sins he gave Rogue One, the Star Wars movie, was, and I quote, it wouldn't be a Star Wars movie if there wasn't a cup of a weird colored liquid. In reference to the blue milk on the planet that Jin comes from at the start of Rogue One. Apparently it is a sin of the movie. It is part of everything wrong with Rogue One. There is an alien liquid in a cup, and it's on screen. Half the time, CinemaSins is just pointing out a thing on screen, then dings, like, does a ding noise and adds, like, a quote-unquote sin to the movie, as if that was, like, here's a reason why the movie is bad. And if you think that's not the message people are supposed to get, doesn't matter. That's the message the comment section seems to be getting. That is the level and standard that movie review online is at right now. That is the most successful movie review content. Even outside of the whole political sphere, low effort, low critical thinking, grift content is taking off across the internet. In the world of media review, politics, it's just what's taking off right now. Because when you don't have any morals, you can take every single opportunity available to you to dominate the landscape of the internet, where you are always rewarded for morally negative actions.
Sleep, but also annoys you at the same time. It's kind of an odd combination to be both sleepy and deeply irritated simultaneously. As for the plot, I can only tell you that Sonic is the good hedgehog, which you may know. There's also an evil hedgehog voiced by Keanu Reeves, who, and I like Keanu Reeves, by the way, but...
Clearly paying attention. Yes, Shadow the Hedgehog is evil. Someone who has paid attention to the Sonic media in question. Guys, I've never played a Sonic game before, and I know that Shadow the Hedgehog is not evil. He is an anti-hero who starts out as an antagonist who is being manipulated by the actual villain. And while, yes, he serves as an antagonist and oftentimes a subtle, like, deuteragonist? I forget what the term is, but, like, he's sort of an anti-hero rival of Sonic. They have, like, a friendly rivalry in most adaptations, but in most introductions of Shadow in any run, from my understanding, he starts out as a villain, but not because he is fundamentally villainous, but because he's always, like, being manipulated and made to look like the bad guy, but then it's revealed he's got a heart of gold. You know, that's like the kind of character he's supposed to be. He's a very particular character archetype that's very consistent in at least every adaptation of him I've seen. And I've not seen many, but that has been quite consistent. Shadow is just like the anti-hero initial antagonist with the heart of gold in the end.
Like every other voice actor in this film and most voice actors in most children's films that have been made for the past 20 years, he has no talent as a voice actor and doesn't understand how to act with Reeves, by the way. But like every other voice actor in this film and most voice actors in most children's films that have been made for the past 20 years, he has no talent as a voice actor and...
Matt Walsh, you failed out of Hollywood, for starters. You crashed out of Hollywood. You didn't make it. You have to grift online for pay, okay? You failed, all right? This was your backup plan. Let's be clear. Did he just say that Keanu Reeves, Idris Elba, and I don't know the voice actor for Sonic, but the guy just sounds like fucking Sonic, so who gives a shit? It's fine. It's perfect voice acting. Are you seriously suggesting that two of the most beloved actors in Hollywood today are shit at acting? Because to be clear, Idris Elba is perfect for Knuckles. He plays Knuckles perfectly. And maybe the character's voice, or maybe like Idris Elba sounds weird voice acting to Matt Walsh in this movie because he's playing Knuckles well and doesn't sound like Idris Elba. He sounds like Knuckles. Maybe that's why Matt Walsh is like, he's a bad voice actor. He doesn't sound like himself. Maybe it's because Keanu Reeves, I mean, he sounds like Keanu Reeves, but he's playing Shadow and saying things Shadow would say and acting like Shadow and doesn't 100% sound like Keanu Reeves. Maybe that's why it sounds off to Matt Walsh. He doesn't understand that voice actors typically change their voices to an extent to fit the character. It'd be hilarious if Matt Walsh understands acting and voice acting so badly that he thinks if your voice sounds different from your natural one, then you must be a bad voice actor. That would be a very Matt Walsh thing to think, to be honest with you.
Doesn't understand how to act with just your voice. But he's famous, so that's good enough, I suppose. So Sonic has to stop the evil hedgehog and his evil cohorts, that's the Jim Carrey dancing duo I mentioned earlier, from blowing up the world with a big laser. And, you know, this has...
It's piss, not a laser. Get it right.
...been the evil plan of every evil villain in every blockbuster franchise film for the past 3 decades. It's a...
You see how stupid you sound when you talk confidently about something you have no fucking knowledge about? They one-to-one adapted, well, not one-to-one, but like that plot line with the whole like laser, like Death Star thing is a reference to the Death Star from a game that is like 2 decades old at this point, as far as I'm aware. Like Sonic Adventure 2, which is what that's from, right? The one I'm going to be playing the day after tomorrow, which will be pretty hype. It's an adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2. Where the big Eggman Death Star shoots the laser beam piss at the moon. Like, that's the joke. That's the joke. It's a reference to the most, like, comical, like, basic supervillain thing you could do. That's Eggman's character. He is a comically, like, cartoon villain. And that's the joke. That's why he's so fun. That's why he's likable and funny as a villain. Is he's not too serious, but he's serious enough to be a compelling antagonist while also being a likable, memeable character. Like, no wonder Matt Walsh crashed out of Hollywood. He doesn't understand this shit at all. Hold on. Just to give you guys an idea of what was being adapted here, get a look at the graphics of the cutscene. And this is the original cutscene, by the way. There have been no edits or alterations made to this clip from the game. This is the original cutscene, original audio and everything. Take a look at the thing they were adapting there, and get a look at, like, the graphical fidelity. It gives you an idea of, like, how old the storyline is that they were adapting. It would be a problem if they didn't do the laser beam thing.
The following program is classified M. It is recommended for viewers 15 years and over. We recommend the use of the parental lock system.
I come to make an announcement. Shadow the Hedgehog's a bitch-ass motherfucker. He pissed on my fucking wife. That's right. He took his hedgehog fucking quilly dick out and he pissed on my fucking wife and he said his dick was this big. And I said that's disgusting. So I'm making a call-out post on my twitter.com. Shadow the Hedgehog, you got a small dick. It's the size of this walnut except way smaller. And guess what? Here's what my dong looks like. That's right, baby. All points, no quills, no pillows. Look at that, it looks like 2 balls in a bong. He fucked my wife, so guess what? I'm gonna fuck the earth. That's right, this is what you get. My super laser piss. Except I'm not gonna piss on the earth. I'm gonna go higher. I'm pissing on the moon. How do you like that, Obama? I pissed on the moon, you idiot! You have 23 hours before the piss droplets hit the fucking earth. Now get out of my fucking sight before I piss on you too.
Yeah, that clip is amazing. But also, a good look at what the whole, like, laser beam in space thing is all about. Like, they were adapting a classic Sonic game storyline. It would be a problem if they didn't, okay? Once again, Matt Walsh looks kind of stupid and sounds like kind of a cunt when he talks so confidently about something he knows jack shit about. And right now, it's something that has nothing to do with politics, so no one's got their political biases here. Presumably, most of the people who will watch this video will be Sonic fans. So you can see, like, this guy is just such a smarmy, ignorant, and it's the ignorance. It's not just being a smarmy, sarcastic, negative cunt. It's that he is so ignorant as he does so, judging a piece of media for doing things that fans of said media, the people who have wanted that to exist, wanted to happen. The audacity. And Matt Walsh is no different on any other topic he discusses. I hope you know that. That this Luigi Mangione thing, the Sonic thing, this is just Matt Walsh slipping up and doing what he always does on topics that his fans happen to be knowledgeable enough on that they are not going to buy Matt Walsh's bullshit.
The formula that this movie is not interested in deviating from, this is not the sort of movie that deviates from formulas. Now, if you're wondering
I don't think it was ever
why
meant to
the evil
be.
hedgehog and the 2 Jim Carreys want to explode the world and murder 8 billion people in a cosmic blast that they will also die in, it's because
it'd be funny.
the older Jim Carrey's granddaughter, I think, was killed, and now he wants to commit murder-suicide because life isn't worth living. Like, that's real. That's in the movie. He actually declares his suicidal intention as well. Now, if that seems like weirdly bleak and dark for a kid's movie where the characters bust out impromptu dance routines and...
I will say, Matt Walsh has done this. Like, there was this brand of, like, conservative anti-gaming content that was very big on the right back in, like, 2008. Like, you had these figures like Republican Florida lawyer, I think his name was Jack Thompson, who, like, rallied a campaign to try and ban Grand Theft Auto because, like, it was violent video games. He wanted violent video games banned. And a lot of conservative evangelicals pushed this big movement to ban violent video games. And so initially, a lot of, like, content online was left-leaning in the sense that it dunked on those figures for that reason, because people on the internet were not taken too kindly to these boomer politicians wanting to ban violent video games because they don't understand them, and they're scared of what, like, doesn't make sense to them. And so, for the right to become successful, they dropped that shit real fast in the realm of the internet. They dropped that shit real fast. However, when it comes to certain figures, it is their instinct to say these things. Look at Gavin McInnes, which I was about to bring up, but Redux did it before I could. Gavin McInnes, the founder of the Proud Boys, back in the day had this, like, bitter rant about how any adult who plays video games is like a man-child loser or whatever. But then he goes on a rant about how because video games are for children, it's a problem that video games contain violent adult content. It's the simultaneous lack of ability to recognize that adults like a piece of media, and then when confronted with the content in said media that would make it appeal to adults, they say, "Why is this here? This isn't appropriate in children's media." It's like, well, maybe there's video games about soldiers killing each other in war because adults like that kind of stuff and also play video games. Maybe that's why those games exist. Maybe there's video games about, like, crime drama, like GTA, because adults are interested in crime dramas and they play video games, and so that kind of crossover and things might be an appeal to them. They don't consider that possibility. It's the line of logic is video games are for children and adults shouldn't play them, and also why is there so much adult content in these video games? What is this for? We need to ban this. They don't recognize it as, well, that's the content in this stuff that made it for adults. That's why it appealed to adults. They don't make that connection, or at least if they do, they pretend they don't, because they, like Matt Walsh's brand, of course, is to come off as, he's the smug, intentionally ignorant dad that's, like, doing it to piss off the youngins, right?
Randomly break the fourth wall and constantly speak in internet lingo from 2019. There's a lot of that, by the way. Just as one example, at one point, Jim Carrey says, "Damn you, autocorrect." If it seems weirdly bleak and dark for that.
Damn you, autocorrect is not lingo. It's an expression of the human condition in the tech age. There will never be a time, unless autocorrect becomes perfect, in which damn you, autocorrect stops being relevant, okay? Clearly, Matt is the one that's out of touch if he is not using a device that has autocorrect, and thus gets fucked over when trying to say dick or fuck, and it gets autocorrected to duck. We've all had it happen, and it's very infuriating when it does.
For that kind of movie, it's because it is.
Duck you, autocorrect.
This is a movie, like so many kids' movies these days, that
duckhead.
Schizophrenically darts back and forth from being ironic to painfully self-serious to goofy to earnest, and so on and so on. It doesn't try to smooth over these tonal transitions with good writing or performances. The writing is just terrible, and the performances are atrocious across the board. Instead, it just flings it all against the wall haphazardly, because these are all bullet points that the movie...
Remember, because Matt Walsh's brand is nonstop negativity and ignorance, not only does he brag about not having actually paid attention to the movie in this video, but on top of that, as if it's like a good point for him, because that's his brand, it's like, I don't even really know or care about this thing, but I'm gonna shit talk it, right? So, like, the ignorant smugness triggers the libs, but it also emboldens those that agree with him. But in this case, he doesn't have a crowd that agrees with him. There is no I hate the Sonic movie crowd. Not really online, at least in a substantial amount. And so this brand just doesn't work when there isn't really an audience for it to appeal to. It just makes him look like a generally unlikable dick. And that's really, like, I guess the premise of this video at the end of the day. Like, the comments got the same message, you know? Let's read some more of the comments. Funny, Matt, you've now dethroned IGN for the worst Sonic 3 review. I have 4 younger siblings, all are different ages, that absolutely love Sonic 3, 2 of which are major Sonic fans. Maybe it's just your weak mentality and terrible taste that let this movie break you. This film feels like it could have been written by AI, quote-unquote. Ah, yes, bland, inoffensive AI film scripts, known for their inclusion of child death, suicidal villains, main character sacrifice, and nuanced themes about familial grief. Matt, as someone who built a career on making reviews, I don't think reviewing is really the path for you. Might I suggest going back to what you're best at, calling everything in existence woke or gay? I think Matt hates everything he isn't involved in. Ego crashing hard with this one. Sonic isn't a bad movie at all. The more you let this man talk, the more he exposes his fragility. Wait until he finds out that the movie is based off of a game that people his age played when they were teenagers. My main man calls people he doesn't agree with snowflakes, and then he says that watching Sonic, the goddamn hedgehog, is worse than getting burned alive or getting hit by a speeding train. What a child, man. I really miss the dislike button count. Quote, kids deserve good movies. Dude, your kids deserve a better father. For anyone who wants the current like to dislike ratio, his likes are currently at 2.5k and his dislikes are at 9.6k, and deservedly, and that was a day ago. The way he talks as if he is right, laughing crying emoji, there it is. That's someone picking up on it. The way he talks as if he is right, laughing crying emoji. People are picking up on exactly what I'm putting down here. When it's your thing that you know about getting shit-talked, and he does this smug, confident, sarcastic bullshit as if he knows what he's talking about, as if he's correct. It's a level of audacious that's just, it's meant to trigger you. But when you're his audience and you're getting triggered, that's not good for him. He shouldn't be triggering his audience. He's supposed to trigger the libs. The feeling he's giving his own fans right now are what we're supposed to feel, so we respond emotionally to him and give him ammo to make more videos to make money off of. But now his fans are the ones experiencing what the left are supposed to feel from his content. And it's not going to go well for him. Not a second time, that's for sure. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this video, and I imagine many of you did because there is much to dunk on Matt Walsh for here, and many people are, then please consider leaving a like and a comment. Whether you're watching live, especially, or after the fact, thumbs ups and comments are the best way to support the channel. Doubling up on them is the most immensely beneficial way to support the channel. It really helps a lot. It forces YouTube to push my content in the algorithm, and I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications if you haven't already, so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos, because believe me, if you don't, they won't. And make sure to follow my social medias, linked down below in the description, so you can see more stuff from me on other platforms, including my Blue Sky and my fan Discord, where I'll be hosting a watch party after stream tonight in only an hour or two. We're getting pretty close to when that watch party will be starting. And of course, finally, if you want to support me directly, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merch through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. Regardless, though, if you enjoyed this video, I really appreciate you watching. Hell, even if you just lurked, I appreciate you being here. And as always, have a good one. I hope to see you again.